Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. So good morning. Welcome to this beautiful day. The best is yet to come. Who knew we could have 70 degrees on a Sunday morning? How about that? Perfect. So I am so excited to bring this wonderful 6-week series that we've been on studying for 6 weeks about the path of conscious creation. We're bringing it to a celebratory conclusion today. If you remember, we started with the first step of spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, and the first line of the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We turn our eyes to God, to divine possibility. We recognize one life. We unite our consciousness with that. We speak our word, knowing that that same creative power is in us. We claim our good in the universe. We give thanks. We call it good. We let it be. Well, that's 5 steps. Then what do? Well, I'm about to tell you. What we do now is we live in the answered prayer. We live in this space of knowing it's already done. How perfect in a year like this one that we have a day where we celebrate God's good in our lives. Amen? How good it is, how necessary it is, because here's the problem. If you are basing your ability to celebrate on just the stuff that's happening out in the world, well, you're in for a tough road this year. We don't live at the level of condition. We live at the level of cause. That's what this is all about, that we always, no matter what is happening in our lives, in our health, in our finances, in our government, in any of that, it doesn't matter. We always go to the good of God that is always eternally available within us, within you, within me. There's never anything that can shake us from the good that is ours, from the good that is who and what we are. There's a line that I use a lot. Comes from Thomas Troward. He was a 19th century metaphysician. He was an Englishman by birth, but he grew up in India, part of the colonial system. We're not going to get into that. But he also became a judge there in India, and he had a great love for the spiritual traditions of the Indian people. And he sought out a lot of the teachers there. And he learned about the universal principles. He learned about this inexorable law that moves upon the thoughts that we think. And he wrote some incredible teachings on this. And there's a particular phrase that I borrow from Thomas Troward a lot. Cheerful expectancy. Once we have done our prayer, once we have said our affirmation that we live in this mental and emotional space of cheerful expectancy. Just try that on for a second. How does that feel? To know that good is coming and to just feel good about it. To live in that space. Here's what he says. If we regard the fulfillment of our purpose as contingent upon circumstances, past, present, or future, we're not making use of what he calls first cause, going to source, going to God. He says, but if we realize that this region of secondary causes, that means the world of effect, is the region of mere reflections, we shall not think of our purpose as contingent on any conditions. But we shall know that by forming an idea in the absolute and maintaining that idea, we have shaped the first cause into the desired form, and we can await the result with cheerful expectancy. Every time we take our need to Spirit, we take our need to God, we open our mind to this Your latter will be greater. The best is yet to come. If we open that reality within us, not based upon the conditions that are here now, but based upon the eternal truth, we will demonstrate, we will manifest our good, and we can just sit here in this space of, I don't know what it is, but it is going to be great. I don't know how it is, but I know now it is going to be good. You can live in that space. That's why we celebrate. That's why we come together today to celebrate this deep truth of the good that is coming. And how many of you know that sometimes it doesn't come wrapped in the paper you had picked out? How many of you have had the experience, as Lisa Nichols, a wonderful spiritual teacher in California, she says, everything is a gift, but some come wrapped in sandpaper. Everything is for us, but it doesn't always look the way we thought it should. It doesn't always come at the time we thought it should. And this is where our cheerful expectancy opens us to recognizing good even when we didn't know we were looking for it in that particular shape or form. There's an old joke, and I'm sure you have all have heard it. I would not presume to use it as a joke for a sermon unless it were really illustrating my point. Hank was at his house. He was praying. Floods were coming. And he said, God, you need to rescue me from these floods. Pretty soon, his neighbor knocked on his door and said, Hank, I've got a boat. We should get out of here. And Hank said, nope, it's okay. I prayed. God's going to deliver me. The waters rose. He had to go up on the roof. Pretty soon it was a rescue team coming in a larger boat. They came and said, sir, we need you to get out of here. The water is too high. It's too dangerous. And he said, no, I prayed to God and I am recognizing God's good. I will be rescued through the power of God. Pretty soon he was on the very highest place on his house and the helicopter came and lowered down a ladder. You know where this is going, right? You've heard this. And he says, no, I don't need a helicopter. I have God. I'm waiting for God to deliver me. He drowned, ended up in heaven. He said, God, what's the deal? I had such faith. I knew you were going to rescue me from the flood, and yet I died. And God says, Hank, I gave you 2 boats and a helicopter. You got to work with me a little bit. How many of you have done that? Yeah, oh, you like that one. And how many of you know that 2020 has upset a lot of our expectations? March 11th, the staff met, and or maybe it was March 10th, and we saw what was coming. We checked around that we just saw what was happening. We checked with a lot of the other large churches in Houston, and Lakewood was closing, and so we closed. We have not been fully open in a public service since, I think, March 13th, I think, is the Sunday. Since then, our entire way of doing community has been disrupted. This is not what we expected when we were starting our 2nd century at Unity of Houston. This was one of those gifts that may have come wrapped in sandpaper. What do you think? And yet, good has come. On Easter Sunday, do you know, you probably remember me saying this, we had people from 31 different nations watching our Easter service with us. That what has just been the few hundred of us gathered here in one space has now opened up. We have become a global ministry like that. That was not in our intention, but that's what happened. In this time when we couldn't do the service in the community the way we wanted to, we found a way. Our Unity in the Community group found a way. They didn't feel like it was the safest thing for our volunteers, a lot of them who are older, to be handing out food to people directly. So they went to work, and they found a way. And you know, during these months that we've been shut down, the food insecurity in our neighborhood just south of Richmond has gotten even greater. And we have fed thousands of families. Didn't come the way we planned. Good came. In this time of all of the racial unrest, thank you. And thank you to that amazing team. After George Floyd died in Minneapolis and our hearts were broken and we didn't know what to do, we found a way to bring the teaching of equality and peace through online events, through Unity in the Community. We have found a way to continue to be a place of God's peace on earth of oneness, of healing. We didn't plan that. That was not what we asked for. But every time one of these things has happened in our experience that was not what we asked for, good was present and was available. And so as we move forward personally and collectively, I'm going to talk mostly about the collective today. What we are realizing is that it's not looking the way we wanted or the way we thought or the way we planned, but it's looking good. Do you hear me? Your staff, they had to learn some new skills and fast. We have our staff now. They are Zoom administrators, Zoom everything. They are so good. They have learned how to do all of these amazing skills to support you. We have developed new programming. It's just incredible. About 3 months ago, we decided to do some innovation not even planning, just ideating, what do you think? What are the ideas, what are the things that might want to happen looking forward in this community? And 4 things have emerged. I want to tell you about them. The first is that we feel it's time to reintroduce ourselves to the world. That it's time that we are in a new phase as Unity of Houston. We want to think about some marketing, some rebranding, some new venues. And so since we've made this decision, we've now gone from just streaming on our website to streaming on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. And where else are we, Jen? Other places? Other places. Several places. I think 7 platforms we are now streaming on. And that was because we got this idea. We need to be out there in a different way. We're finding new ways of reaching people. And like I said, our local community is now, in my spirit group, I have people, there are 8 of us, 9, 10, doesn't matter. I'm not good with numbers anyway. But I have someone on the East Coast. I have 2 on the West Coast. I have 1 in El Paso, and then some of our own community. I see you right here today. That we have become greater than we knew possible. Why? Because God needed us to. We have about 300 people in spirit groups, and they are from all over the country. This year, in December, we're going to have our very first new member class and ceremony, where we're going to welcome for the very first time people into full membership in Unity of Houston who have never set foot in this campus. People are calling us their church, and we are welcoming them. The second thing we want to do is connect people in technology. That feels more important than ever. Redeveloping the app, again, growing this global community, finding new ways that we have these incredible, amazing devices in our pocket, so that the technology hopefully disappears and what we're left with is the connection, people to people. Thanksgiving, it's always been a big thing here on campus. We have a big potluck, and this year we're going to do it on Zoom. It's not what we wanted, but the good is here. The gift is here. The third thing that our staff has helped I'm trying to think of the right word. It wasn't really vision, but I guess it was. We used our intuitive minds, and we said, what is here? What is the collective gathering of intelligence? And those 250 people we have right here today, how good does it feel to have your feet on these grounds? Doesn't it feel amazing? Yeah. There's something sacred here. In this busy, traffic-ridden place of Houston, this is a sanctuary. And we're feeling it in a greater and greater way. We have a vision of restoring and renewing our love with this sacred ground upon which we rest. We've already started. Reverend Shirley Knight has put a team together. They're going to be remodeling the bathrooms in the bookstore building. We're going to be doing different projects in different ways just to give more love to our physical space. And I have a vision that we are going to be having conferences and retreats from our now global community. People will be making pilgrimage to Houston, and we will be meeting in person. I see the long-term vision. We'll build that new education center and conference center on this ground. But we're going to love this from the ground up. So you'll be hearing about projects of renewing our commitment to being stewards of this sacred land upon which we celebrate. And lastly, we want to be thinking about calling in the new generations. That I love this church, and a few of us have a few white hairs, which is wonderful. But who are the people that we're bringing in behind us? How are we making ourselves welcoming of young families? And so this is a question that we are going to be asking. We're going to be having very soon, we're going to have a sort of a town hall meeting with all of our young adults and young families, and we're going to ask them, what brought you here, and what can we do to welcome your friends into this community? We need to be listening to what our young people are saying. We have to be thinking generationally. What are the programs? What are the kinds of services and the classes that will be useful to these young folks who are coming up? And that, I saw some, I'm not going to say that yet. I'm going to bring you up here. We have one of these beautiful young souls who has found our community, and I don't know if she was going to say this, but I'm going to say it. She found us by Googling the term Houston Hippie Church. That's how she found us. She is an amazing soul, lit up by this teaching, using these teachings to transform her life, and I've just asked her to come and share her experience of what Unity of Houston is to her. Please welcome Olivia Ozanne.
It feels amazing to be on this campus today. Okay, I'm not going to cry, but it feels amazing. So, good morning, everyone. So September 17, 2018, that's the day that I experienced my very first service here at the Unity of Houston. I remember specifically because I found my journal entry written on that very day. I'll be honest and say at the time, I was sort of sick of the negativity I'd seen in churches, the outcasting, the judging. I was in search of my people, a group of people that were bold enough to recognize their power, practice radical love to themselves and to the world, and not be intimidated by someone who held different beliefs from them. So naturally, and Reverend Michael gets a kick out of this, he stole it from me, I Googled hippie churches in Houston. I did. And it led me right here to my Unitics. And yes, since that very day, I've been able to manifest my literal dream life. I got the career, I got the job, I got the house, I got the car. But what's at the very top of my list is actually something that I cannot quantify, and that's the community that I found here at Unity. From the small, uplifting conversations found at the coffee booth, to the nurturing care that my son receives in the nursery, down to the hand that was placed on my pregnant belly when I had concerns, the late-night phone call I received the morning of my scheduled C-section. That is true abundance. And the truth is that manifesting from that point of attraction is really what led me to realize all of the material elements that have come into my reality today. Source knew what it was doing when it brought me here. And as a collective, we've all been through so much. We've survived a literal worldwide pandemic, and we have so much to be grateful for. I can't help but think that the Unity movement has been preparing us all for this very moment in time. It's very easy to think of manifestation in terms of only bringing the good things into our lives. But the truth is that we're always manifesting. And our lives are the culmination of every single core belief that we've held, negative and positive. The universe is very indifferent, and it always says, like, yes, I learned that here. Whether we realize it or not, our everyday thoughts are our daily prayers. More and more people are waking up to the awareness of this knowledge. And while it is very empowering to know that we all literally hold the magic wands to our own lives, it also forces us to realize that we have to take responsibility for the not so pleasant things that we experience. Every person who's gone through a spiritual awakening knows that it isn't a glamorous process. You have to literally shine a light on yourself and realize just how much your ego has controlled who you are. You have to shed the you that you've always known to be true. You're questioning everything you've ever been taught, and you can begin to feel isolated from the world. You no longer relate to most people, and loneliness begins to kick in. And that's exactly where I was before I came to Unity. So I found my tribe, and I couldn't be happier. This is one special group of people. And I believe that the work that we're doing here is more important now than ever. We have to continue to shine our light to help guide those who are experiencing darkness right now. We have to share our joy because that's what the world needs right now. It needs more happy people. We know the truth, and so we're being tasked to not succumb to lower vibrational thoughts that promote fear and anxiety. We have to hold the vibration of love and ask that the world match that energy and not the former, because that's our superpower. And despite what society believes to be true, it was Nietzsche who so beautifully said, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. It's the ones crazy enough to think that they can change the world that actually do. And especially coming into this election week, in what may be complete and utter chaos, everything is okay. It's funny, I remember hearing when I was younger, though in a very different context, you are in this world, but you don't have to be of this world. Really take a second to think about who you were in March of 2020, before all of this happened, and soak in how much growth that we've all had. There is a reason for all of this. So let's keep our eyes on the intention of love and continue to spread the good word that hope is still alive. Thank you guys so much for being a part of my tribe.
Oh. I wish I could hug you, Olivia. Oh my goodness, isn't she great? So that is who we're attracting as the next generation of this incredible community. And don't we want to make sure that we are providing the same classes, the teaching, the opportunity to form community? That's what we're about. So this is the time that we're talking about our financial commitments for next year. And so I want to just take a few moments to talk about why we do that. This week I saw something so amazing. He was the Person of the Week on ABC News. He is 19 years old, I think, and he had been a homeless teenager living in his car. He had been working double and triple shifts at a local amusement park in Virginia just so he could save some money. And he got a full ride scholarship to the college of his dreams, Boston College. And instead of just taking his good and pocketing it and going on with his life, do you know what he did? He walked 600 miles from Virginia to Boston as a fundraiser to raise money for other people who are homeless. And he raised $170,000. I'm not sure what happened. Is that me? We'll go to number 8. This is an example of someone who got their good and passed it forward to those who he could also help. That's why we do our pledge program every year. That's why we ask people to commit their financial good to support the generation that's here and those to come. A few things I want to tell you about it this year. We have made it much, much easier and simpler for you. I want to tell you about where we are financially. We have trimmed our expenses as much as we can, and your staff has been incredibly good at that. But our revenue from our Sunday service offerings is down by hundreds of thousands of dollars because we have not been able to have our regular Sunday services. Each month we've had to dip into our reserves to pay the bills, and that's okay. That's exactly why we have reserves for such time as this. A lot of you have stepped up with extra gifts this year. That too has helped make the difference. Thank you so much. But you know, it's the automatic givers that have sustained us. That we're about 80% of our revenue, and it's because of those people who just automatically each month in all amounts support us. That is what makes the difference for us. So I'm going to ask you to consider that as you're thinking about your financial commitment for 2021, you might even just see what you gave last year if you're not an automatic giver and just divide by 12. And there's your pledge right there. Just let us know how much you would like to support. 2 years ago, we introduced the concept of the watermark. And just briefly, I want to tell you what that is. That we have about 800 people in this church that regularly give and support us financially. If each one of those 800 people gave $300 a month, our budget would be fully funded. Now, we know that's not possible for everyone, and that's just not the way it's going to work. But that's a good number for us to be thinking about if we have the means. If that's within our giving and tithing consciousness to give $300 a month, that's the watermark. That's where we want to hold that idea in mind. And many of you have stepped up to that level, and we are so grateful. Many of you are no less committed, but that is not the level of your current income. And many people give greater. So this year we've actually created 4 levels of financial commitment. I want to tell you now what those are. The first level we call the grateful giver. These are people that are committing to giving up to $100 every month to Unity of Houston. Do I still need this, Johandi, or can I turn it on? I do. Okay, I need this mic. Up to $100 a month. And I want to particularly call out our new people who are joining us from Pittsburgh and from LA and from Washington. You know, we may not even be your local church. You may still be financially committing to another church. But what if you thought about a subscription service like Netflix, but Unity of Houston is your spiritual Netflix? And you can give $15, $25, $50 a month to keep that law of circulation going around the classes and the groups and the services that you're receiving the good from here. But it's also for those of us who are here locally who want to give in a committed way. Please consider doing a monthly amount of up to $100 to become a loyalty giver. A grateful giver. The next level is about $100 to $300. These are people who are fully in our community. And we want to acknowledge you and say thank you for your committed ongoing gifts of $100 to $300. This is actually our largest group of committed givers. I never, ever want to have anyone feel less than because they don't give those huge amounts. No, your gifts are the bulk of what sustains and supports this ministry. So I want to bless our loyalty givers. I've already talked about those watermark givers of giving $300 a month. And this year we've also introduced the legacy givers. These are the people who are blessed and are able to continue to be a blessing. Like Gordon Wayne, that young man who had got his good and wanted to give good to others. Our legacy givers are people who give $10,000 a year or more to Unity of Houston. It's just a couple dozen people. But I just want to say thank you so much for your commitment, for your willingness to not only pay your own way, so to speak, but keep these doors open for all the others who, like Olivia, are finding their way here through those interesting Google searches, finding their way here, who are ready for this teaching. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.